Verse number 57. In the waveless ocean, endless straits of Maya remain as potent and beginningless effects. Waters, taste, and so on make a configuration, and with such embodied forms, world upon world comes to be. Commentary. In the last verse, we were considering the waves which come one after another on the ocean. When we think of the ocean, we automatically think of the waves also. We think of the ocean as the cause and the waves as the effect. The ocean is always restless, always causing waves. But imagine for a moment that there are no waves. What is important about the ocean if it has no waves? If you dip your finger into it and taste it, it is salty. The water of the ocean is saline. We are going to an entirely different world of interest in this verse. We are no longer thinking of ocean and wave. We are thinking of the saline water and its salty taste. It is the same ocean, but our interest has been shifted from one possibility to another. Someone who sits and thinks about waves is focusing on only one aspect of the ocean. Another person experiences the taste aspect, which is totally different. A third person who comes to the ocean might think, what a good place to surf. Yet another might come on a calm day, see no waves and think, fine, it's a good time for oyster fishing. So I will dive into it and pick up pearls. How many such interests are there? We cannot say. This verse says that when waves cease in the ocean, do not think that all the possibilities have also ceased. The only thing apparent was the water, and now it has ceased. Like the cessation of the wave of the ocean, our minds also at times become very still. For instance, a man who is sleeping looks very innocent. Maybe he isn't innocent, but for now he has given up all his activities. He is pacified, deep in sleep. But for all that serenity, he may be quite unpleasant or even dangerous when he wakens. Walpole used to say, let sleeping dogs lie. Don't go and tickle the dog. It may snarl and bite you. So let it be. Similarly, don't think that if the ocean is without waves, it will be like that forever. You have no idea how many possibilities are lying latent in it, nor how many different oceans there are. The ocean of salt water is only one type of ocean. A philosopher who is thinking about the phenomenality of life and its dualities, pain and pleasure, becoming and being, truth and falsehood, sees the ocean of Sambit, which is at once gross and subtle, conscious and unconscious. The possibilities of the ocean of Sambit are many times more numerous than those of a saline sea. Again, a person in a mood of adoration, who is filled with a sense of reverence and who looks around and sees the abundant benevolence of nature, is filled with another idea, that of an ocean of compassion. One who is in a state of meditation, who is silently immersing into the unfathomable depths of his own self, sees in, around, above, and below nothing but the ineffable ocean called Adi Mahas, the primal glory. So there are many oceans, and all of them have infinite possibilities. Narayana Guru is here referring to the ocean of Maya. Shankara in his Viveka Chudamani describes Maya as the ignorance that is without a beginning and that causes the dual aspect which conceals truth and projects untruth, with all its variegated names and forms in a variety of ways. Since it has no beginning, we cannot say prior to the beginningless. We think of being first, and then becoming starts. We cannot conceive of a becoming that starts before being, because we have already considered the process of phenomenality as beginningless. So there is no point in looking for something that is before it. Whatever beingness is there, we have to see within the becoming itself, as being and becoming are inseparable. In this verse, the idea of endlessness is added to beginninglessness. Here, Maya is presented as a series of effects. Nobody can think of a cause without an effect. A cause is a cause because it affects something. Past is past because of the present. As long as the past is here, it cannot be past. It is the present. It is only in relation to the present that we can say something is past. Similarly, it is in relationship to an effect that you say cause. It is only when you taste the saline water that you say it is salty. Before you taste it, that question doesn't arise. Thus, all our experiences are clusters of effects. What we have seen so far is only a little, but it is nonetheless beginningless. In the last verse, the Guru called our attention to the shifting universes of interest. Like the waves in an ocean, one embodiment after another comes and then disappears. You may be happy at one moment and moody the next, bright in the morning and depressed in the evening. Like the fluctuating moods of the ocean, the shifting patterns of the sky, and the alternation of the seasons, consciousness is always changing. Changing from what to what, from one universe of interest to another. Next, the Guru says, no waves. We take our minds away from the interest in one thing followed by another. He is no longer speaking of the sequences of things. That is the temporal myth. Instead, we should think of actualization. When we taste water, we are not thinking in terms of a sequence. We are thinking of the actuality of an experience. We can look at something in its latitudinal and longitudinal aspects, or we can locate it simply as a point in the here and now. This here and now experience is salty or sweet, bitter or pungent. All these possibilities are lying hidden here in the ocean, which looks so calm on the surface. You cannot judge anyone. You cannot even judge yourself. What a person may or may not do, may or may not think, may or may not understand, or may not like, has no limitations. They all belong to this phenomenal process called Kalya. In that there are systems within systems. In terms of the collective consciousness, a mind is only one wave. But when we consider the mind separately, it becomes itself an ocean, with all the interests arising in it as the waves. Several types of disturbance can cause a wave in the water. The mechanical movement of a passing ship might initiate one, or the blowing of the wind. Perhaps a sudden change in atmospheric pressure might do it, or again a cold water current sweeping into a warm one would cause the disturbance. We cannot decide exactly what causes a wave. It can be from above or below or within the whole structure. Like that, a person may react with me in a certain way, and my mind gets into a turmoil. Or a hidden fear in me suddenly surfaces and my mind is upset. Or I see a new possibility of a gratification of a desire. My mind is again in a turmoil. My body contracts an ailment which it didn't have before. That brings more turbulence. Something of my great-grandfather which lay dormant for 3 generations and which lay dormant in me for another 50 years suddenly explodes like a time bomb and causes an upheaval in my psyche. When all these possibilities are there, We cannot say which cause brings which effect at what time. Innumerable are the possibilities of Maya Kala. Tantric Yoga speaks of Bindu, Nada and Kala. A Bindu is a focal point. A point has no dimensions, only location. But that location decides what is to happen around it. When you fix one end of a compass and inscribe a circle, the particular locus fixed as the center decides where the circle is going to be. You can move the locus and then you will draw another circle. Of course, this is independent of the diameter you choose, which decides the size or the circumference of the circle. What happens between a locus and a circumference decides the field. The operational function, which originates at the Bindu point and spreads all over the field, is called Nada. Nada means the vibration. There is a vibratory function which originates from the focal point and then fills the field. The field becomes permeated with that particular vibration. It can be a vibration of love, of hatred, of infatuation, of great joy, of serenity, of great peace, of beatitude, of anything. When this happens, it is called Kala. Before it happens, it is remaining there, dormant. If the possibility is not in it, it cannot happen. For instance, if you put a fermenting substance into milk, it curdles. If you put the same into oil, it doesn't. Only if the possibility is there can something happen. In Maya, there are many such potentials to produce ever so many kala. A kala thus is to be understood as both potential and actual. It is the total function which has its own will. In this verse, we are taking your experience, my experience, and the experience of all of posterity into one and saying it has no beginning and no end. Special notice should be given of the words Ulagura Vayura Vai Oruvai Ninnilunu. Narayana Guru again and again refers to this one word, Ulaga, the world, where we are in pursuit of interest, where our sense interests have great relevancy. When we turn to sensory data and make out of it an ensemble of meaning, that becomes what we call one universe of interest. Each universe of interest has its own inner structuring, which is here called Uru. A body is also called an Uru, as in a body of interest. Thus, Uru Vayi, one body and another body, and still another body. In the previous verse, the Guru said wave after wave. Here he says world after world of interest coming from the depths of Maya Kala. In the Yoga Vasishta is a story of a man who had 10 sons. They decided to meditate on Brahma. It is said that what you meditate on, that you become. Here Brahma means the creator. When the 10 boys started meditating, their identification with the creator was such that each created his own world. Another boy came and confronted one of these Brahmas. He showed a kind of maturity which was beyond his age, and he was chastising him. The Brahma wanted to know where he got the authority to come and speak so to an elder person. The boy answered, I know not only you as Brahma, but also all the previous Brahmas. He added that it takes 4 Chaturyugas, 4 great eons of several million years each, to make one cycle of time. That one cycle is when Brahma is keeping his eyes open. When he closes his eyes, there comes the great dissolution of everything. Creation starts when he again opens his eyes. One opening and one closing together make one day. 360 such days make a year of Brahma. Only after 1,000 such years does one Brahma go. The boy was saying, "This Brahma who is sitting here is one of the recent ones. There have been so many already." He knew them all. When you think of time like that, there is no end to it. I was reading in a physics book that recently physicists have found many new kinds of subatomic particles. There is one called a pion. For a pion to make a pilgrimage from one end of the atomic nucleus to the other takes 10 particle seconds. And what is a particle second? If you put a 0, then a decimal point, and then put 22 zeros with a 1 at the end, that much of a second is a particle second. Of course, the pion must be a loafer. It takes 10 particle seconds to cross the nucleus. The point is that the possibilities of time in its infinitesimal aspect also have no end. Is any of this real or unreal? The Guru says don't put such questions. One story was told by a religious man, Vasishta, and the other was told by a high-pressure physicist. Both are equally fantastic and unimaginable. Imaginable or not, those possibilities concern just one factor, called time. In the phenomenality of becoming, time is only one element. So many other factors are there. And even within time, there are so many varieties of possibilities. Then you have to think of space, of matter, mass, gravitation, on and on endlessly. Narayana Guru gives us here a total vision where being and becoming are interlaced, cause and effect are inseparable, and the one and the many are the same. Interest and the cessation of interest are also to be taken as complementary aspects. Do not try to understand this as a philosophy. Place yourself in the whole system. Look at the importance and unimportance of what is happening in life. Think of the great magnitude of potentials within a time-space continuum in which your consciousness at the moment is in pursuit of one single interest. Also think of yourself as the one consciousness which permeates all, enveloping everything with a frontierless vastness. Thus you are both the tiny little interest that is running after gratification, and also you are that universal consciousness which is going on proliferating, universe after universe, within itself. What a grand vision this is. Now think of your little gossips, bickerings, petty likes and dislikes. We have such beautiful, fine, wonderful meditations in the morning. But once the closing chant is given, the mood changes. The mind and its interest changes. You slip away into the world of gossip and innuendo and say, "I don't like that person sitting there. This one shouldn't be doing that. I don't like the way that person is behaving." How many such thoughts come and mar the beauty of this wonderful life, where there is every possibility of great harmony, great joy, a sense of wonder piled on top of another sense of wonder. You invite frustration after frustration. This happens because you are shrinking into just one momentary point of awareness or interest, and thereby isolating yourself from the vastness. The me in you becomes so very important and mean and dirty. It has become a scourge to annihilate the whole beauty of life. Learn instead to expand, learn to permeate, learn to embrace. Karl Marx once said, "Workers of the world, unite, for you have nothing to lose but your chains, and a whole world to gain." We can also say, lovers of wisdom, unify yourself, unite your understanding. You have nothing to lose but your stupidity, your madness, and you have a whole world of eternal joy to gain. The free translation of verse number 57 is as follows. Even in a quiescent state of consciousness, there lurk many traits of Maya. As in the ocean, endless effects are produced from the many configurations of water, its taste, and so on. World upon world is created out of the latent potentials of consciousness.